All right, let's see. Okay, I'm live. Perfect. All right. So, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're actually viewing this. It happens to be January 5th, Sunday, 10:48 p.m. here in Las Vegas. I just got back last night from a soul retreat in Sedona, Arizona. And I'm recording this live because this is basically my testimonial for Sedona Soul Adventures. And this is going to serve you in a way that I believe for those of you who are true leaders um, and are really looking to go to your next level in regards to your expansion as a leader. That's who this video is for. It's probably going to get personal. I may trigger some folks. It may strike a couple chords. But the reason I want, and I actually wrote a couple things down on what I wanted to say. And the reason I'm doing this now, to be quite honest, I really don't want to record this video simply because I'm just coming off of just a very emotional week, and I haven't even processed my whole experience yet. But if I don't do this now, it's not going to get done just because I have a lot of work projects coming up. So this is my opportunity to share. So I want to talk to you. I kind of want to break this video up into 4 parts. It is the buildup, my state, my responsibility, and my experience. So I want to talk about the buildup on why I believe I needed a soul retreat and what a soul retreat is. I want to talk about my mental state, and I want to talk about my responsibility and then my experience during the retreat and some of what happened. And the reason why I'm also sharing this is because many people have reached out to me as a result of me sharing that I was going on a soul retreat, asking me what it was, how much it was, what happened, blah, blah, blah. And so this is my way of responding because I will not be answering individual questions after I record this video. So that said, let's talk about the buildup. Well, before I get to the buildup, I want to talk about why it's necessary for leaders to really grow and start to heal and expand and develop when you know that you are doing great work, when you're doing big work, when you're doing divine work, when you're doing mission work, when you're doing any sort of business, when you know that you're building something where you're going to have to grow into a new person. So basically where it is you're wanting to go, you're not him or her today, right? You're not him or her today, but you know in your soul, you know in your heart, you know in your spirit, you know in your gut that there's more for you, but you can't get there. And it's not about business things. It's not about more training for me or whoever else. It's about something inside of you that is blocking your next expansion, right? And so that's who this is for. So I'm going to talk to you about my buildup. So why did I think I needed this? Well, I'll share it with you very transparently. I've done a lot of personal development. I am a super believer in it. I am all about growing, and I believe that we should be seeking betterments to become a better person, especially when you're leading, whether you're in ministry, whether you're in business, whatever it is. If you are in a position where other people are potentially doing things based on your influence, buying things on your influence, taking courses, building their business, having better marriages, whatever it is, you got to be 20 steps ahead from a internal growth perspective. And so for me, I had done a lot of personal growth already, but I had never done what I did this past week in Sedona. And so the buildup for me was, it's so funny because really my whole effing life has been the buildup for this. But when I said I needed it was when my marriage was ending. And so I got married October 2010. And my marriage really was ending within 4 years. I stayed married for 8 years. We were together for 10 years total. And for the last I'll say this. Once we really came to the end, there were a lot of things that happened. You know, my father had his leg amputated. Um, then my father got cancer. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the business was going good. My friendships were great. You know, people were getting results, all these amazing things. But in my personal life, I wasn't happy. And for a while I was, and then one day I wasn't, right? And so that buildup, I'm just letting you know, like that buildup was resentment from my former spouse because I was spending so much time building the business. The resentment was, you know, I didn't want to be in Oklahoma City. The resentment was like all these little things that had built up on top of that. And then my father dying, and then the emotions around that, and the fact that he and I, my father and I, had a tumultuous relationship because of his alcohol abuse and other abuse, as many of you guys know, as a part of my story. And so those things were the buildup. Now, as my marriage is ending and I, you know, am watching my father die and with cancer and watching my mother stress, one of my goals became, of course, to retire my mom, which you guys know I did. And so again, the buildup of good and bad stress, of things that I have no control over and of things that I have control over. And so when I decided that something different needed to happen, now I want to kind of move into the number two, which is what state of mind was I in? And basically I am a push through person, right? So I can handle a lot. Like I am the person you can call. I can handle a lot. I can handle tons of people's challenges. I don't have to absorb it. I've trained myself in order to handle you and your challenges and the next person and the next person that inboxes me and the next call and the next email. Like I'm good at that. But what I also recognize is to be very clear on what my spirit is saying to me, how I'm feeling, like all that is really important to me. And so my state of mind was weary. My state of mind was I effing need something, because if I don't get it, I am going to snap. Now, again, on the side over here, business and everything is fine. And I wasn't walking around miserable or nothing, but I was, my spirit was weary, right? My spirit was weary. I knew my dad was going to die. I didn't feel like I was under a lot of stress, a lot of stress, because I felt responsible to take care of everything, because that's just who I am, right? For my family. And so that was, you know, additional stress on that, on top of the other things. In the midst of that, my daughter was me and her were having a very challenging time. She got pregnant. I did not like her choice of person. I almost hated him. I mean, so added that component onto that, and the strife between me and her, that was also, you know, a contributor to the buildup. And so then my state became very weary at home, because I had all of these varying factors. Again, some I can control, many I could not. That was weighing on my soul. That was weighing on my spirit. And from there, moving into number three, my responsibility, because I'm a seeker, because I believe in healing, because I believe in personal development, because I believe in showing up the best for you, I said, okay, I've got to do something. And so a friend of mine, I was talking to, knew what I was experiencing. And she said, I'm going to suggest that you go on this thing. She said, I went on it and I can't even tell you, like, it has changed my whole life. And I said, give me the number. She gave me the number. I called. And when I called, so I'll get to when I called. I want to first go back to my responsibility. Here's what I understand, and here's what you should understand as a leader. It is your job to be well. It is your job to heal. It is your job to feel good. It is your job to bring your best foot forward. It is your responsibility. So many people have all kinds of things that has occurred in their lives, happened to them, or people that you know, and it weighs on you. But now we are grown people. It is our job to be well and to get well and to stay well and to maintain that, right? So that we can show up the best we can, especially leaders. And so I just want to say that in regards to responsibility, I feel like there's so many people out there that don't know what they're talking about in regards to leadership because they are so broken themselves. I even feel like there's so many therapists that are keeping people repressed because they're not even healed or well themselves. And so just know that it is your responsibility to seek, whether it's spiritual guidance, whatever the hell you need in order to be the best and whole person that I believe God created us to be. You have to go after it. And so just never forget it's your responsibility. I can easily blame my parents and this and that. And I know that a lot of these things come from my childhood and all these other things, but it's still our job as adults to then say, okay, these are my realities. How do I feel better about these? How do I get a new perspective? How do I move forward? If you know, and here's a good measure of this, right? So, and this is before I get to my experience, because now I want to talk to you about my actual experience in Sedona and why I feel so transformed. And that is, it's not your intellect when, for example, things that are preventing you from leading, things that are preventing you from actually being profitable, things that are preventing you from growing your business, things you have all the knowledge, all the tools, all the resources, access to ask the questions, but you still are in the same place and you can't break through. When that is your reality, it is not your intellect. It is not the business. It is not the business. It is not a new training, a new coach, a new event. It is your spirit. It is your personal self. And that's something that people really have to understand and get a hold of, is that it is you. It is you. And so what I found myself for 3 years, I had been in a fog because I was mentally stressed out, honestly, about my dad dying. And when my dad passed, I swear, I promise, I didn't even know where the fog was coming from. I could express it, but I didn't know what needed to go in order for me to be able to think again. And so, like, for y'all, because I'm a high producing individual, I can usually run circles around the average person. On my worst day, I'm still overproducing. And so people couldn't tell, but I could tell, right? And so just understand that fact. When you have all the tools, you bought the course, you did the thing, but you won't do the work, and there's nothing stopping you from doing it. You know what to do, you know when to do it. You have access to a person, but you just won't do it. You sit down at the computer and you're there for hours doing nothing but surfing on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever you're doing, TikTok and whatever. If you get to that place, then know that there is something else that needs to happen in your life, in your gut, in your soul, in your spirit, that has nothing to do with the next click. Now, I'm off of your responsibility, my responsibility. I want to talk about my experience at Sedona Soul Adventure. So I took my friend's advice. And let me say this, before I took her advice, I didn't. I took her advice, and in February 2018, instead of me going, I sent my ex-husband because I felt guilty for filing for divorce. So I didn't go, but let me tell you something. That was the worst decision I ever made, because I was my soul, my spirit was so weak. That's the only word I could think of. I was mad that I sent him on that retreat instead of myself, but I couldn't take the time off. I had the money, I didn't have the time. So I sent him, and he had his experience. And so for 2 years, basically, I have been wanting to go and not making the time. And so I decided, actually, I didn't decide. Plus one actually said, let's go on a healing retreat. And when he said it this fall, I was like, oh, where's my phone? I'm ready to go. And so then I went. So I'm going to talk to you about what happened. So you call Sedona Soul Adventures, and you speak to someone that they call an angel guide. It's not a retreat where you go hiking. Like if y'all saw pictures and things in my stories of me hiking and doing fun stuff, all that is not the retreat. All that is what we did in our spare time. The retreat is you speaking to what they call an angel guide, and that person's responsibility is to listen to you, and based on what you want for your life and the reason you're calling, right? They build a plan based on what you told them. So for me, I said, I want to be closer to my daughter. My father died. I want some clarity around my relationship. I want to expand my intuitive gifts. And so, because those are the things that I shared, then the plan that they built for me was that. What does that mean? It's not you go to a place and you sit on a couch for an hour and you talk to a person. No. For every single component of the area that you said that you need support, they assign a angel guide or practitioner. Sometimes that person is a therapist. Sometimes that person used to be a therapist who now practices alternative healing. And so then they attach you to those persons. So I went, I had my own track. They went, he had his own track. We did our separate thing, and then we came together in when we were finished with our sessions. So I don't mind sharing with you what my sessions were. My first session was called, and I won't remember all the names of what they were called, but I'm sharing this for those of you who are wanting to know. And let me say this, I will have to say that for a lot of people, it is overwhelming. And I will say that I have never been cracked. Like I can't even process all that has come out of this. Okay, so the first person, I go to her home, and all of these sessions are occurring at these people's homes. So it is an adventure. You're going all over the place in Sedona, which is really cool. So the first person's house I go to, her name is Divya, and she's German. And her thing for me was, it's called family constellation. And it is a method of therapy that deals with families and our ancestral breakdowns. And it basically helps you look at your family and then understand best why things are the way they were or are, and what your place in that is, and what must happen to move the family forward, to move you forward within the family. So that was the first session. It was 3 hours long, and it was the setup for everything else. And it really and truly gave me something I had no idea was even there at all. Like, just no idea, but it makes so much sense. So the second session I went to was Sohana. That session was about my intuitive gifts. I'm naturally intuitive. I'm naturally gifted. I'm naturally highly sensitive, empathic, and connected to spirit, just automatically. Some of you all have heard me talk about the story of seeing angels and having that protection as a young child. And so she was there to help me around understanding, utilizing my intuitive gifts and how I can be a better leader, but also she helped me a lot with my personal relationship as well. And so that was very profound. The third session I had that day was, because this was day one, was a massage. And that massage was around, my chakras and understanding myself, my energy, in addition to the massage. That was Charles. Charles was awesome. Oh my gosh, man, he just made me, I mean, I can't even put into words. So that was day one. Day two, I can't even remember. Hold on. I have my, I think, should, anyway. Day, let's see, Wednesday, I started on the 31st. Okay, here it is. Okay, so these are my notes. Oh God, yes. Okay, so I met with Ron and Denny on day 4. That was around healing relationship wounds, and the type of therapy that they did, I can't remember what it's called, but you have like these vibrating things in your hand that go, it's brain balance. So I don't know if anybody here has done brain balancing before. And I wrote on my notes, I said, I love this session. It seemed weird at first, but I didn't know where we were going, but I was open. They helped me see so much. And what that session really helped me do was, one of the things that they did was really take me back as a child and see how so many different dots connect on why I am a leader, why I am anal about certain things, why and how the alcoholism that I grew up in with my whole family, how that had an impact on me, and what that looks like now as an adult. And also just some shame that I didn't even know that I was really carrying, and resentment in certain areas. And so that was just, I just left there and I just felt really electric and light. And I felt like, yeah, I just felt electric and light. The next session was Heather. This was really new to me. This was it's called breathing healing. I've never heard of it before. Feel free to look it up. The breathing healing was something I literally have never heard. I was so open. We pulled up at her house. It was beautiful. There was just huge panoramic windows. You can see the mountains. And to the side, there was a room with a section where I could tell I was going to be laying on the floor with a mask. And this breathing really, I wish I could describe this breathing. But I've never felt this close to God before. It's nothing she did. It's all me for an hour and a half nearly, breathing in the way that she showed me to breathe. It's just, it sounds so fucking weird, okay? But I don't know what to tell you. She didn't do nothing. She just sat there and all I did was breathe to this music for 80 minutes. And I'm telling you, I wish it sounds crazy. It just sounds crazy, but I don't know. All I know is God showed me some things in that stillness and just connecting with my core, and it was fantastic. After that, I saw a woman named Mariana. Mariana has a PhD. She used to be a therapist. She's 78 years old. You would think she's weird as F. She was, that was for 3 hours. I was so tapped. I was like, I can't talk to another person for 3 hours. But she was just pleasantly, shockingly awesome. And she helped me bring everything together. The name of that session was called Mind, Body, and Soul. And she basically was tying up any loose ends from the whole experience and bringing everything together to make sure I left feeling complete. And I did. Then after that, I had a closing, integration session that basically sets up my takeaways and then what I'm doing over the next 2 weeks, my new practices, and just me processing what has come out of these sessions. I hate to call them sessions. That seems so disrespectful. And so when you get there, you have a orientation. They go over everything. You have directions to all of your practitioners. You have, access to everyone. There's obviously so many other things to do in Sedona. This is not a let's go and this is not the watered down retreat that most people are going to or putting on, where you go and you just going to relax. No, this is we getting all the way. These people are gifted and they went to this amazing, energetically positive place for the purposes of healing people. People go to Sedona for healing. And I didn't even know that I needed as much as I did. And oh man, oh God, I just wish I could. I wish there was a movie because it's so hard to explain and it's not meant to be explained. But I will say this. I believe that everybody that I know should do something like this for themselves. I know that there are so many of you that want what's next, but your soul is not ready. And you've got to get there. And I'll say this, I am a huge proponent of therapy. This is not about therapy. This is like the next thing. This is where the therapists need to go, honestly. This is that. This is you going to a higher spiritual place. And so I would encourage you to take some time to really, and you know what's funny? When I initially wanted to go, I needed it more than I thought that I needed it now. Like I was just like, okay, yes, because I'm all about progressing. I'm all about personal development. So when I went, I really had no idea all the things I am so blowed about the things that I'm not sharing with you because it's just too much. I'm just totally blowed. And so how has this affected me as a person? I think that this experience has changed my whole life, really has. And I just can't even process all of it yet because it's so freaking much. It's good, but it's a lot. And the other thing is I'm excited for the clarity in really working with women, leaders and entrepreneurs. And I'm excited for the person that came back from Sedona. I'm just so thrilled. So I wanted to share this because I'm a responsible leader. And because I told y'all I went, I couldn't very well go and then not say anything when I got back because then people's gonna be asking me. People are also asking me how much it costs. Well, everybody is different. Mine was 3 days. We started on New Year's Eve. And I think it was $3,200. And plus the hotel, plus the airfare, plus the rental car. So you can do the math on that. And then plus one, his was probably the same price. I don't really know. But I would have paid triple for what I got. And because I never would have, none of that ever would have came up. And you know what he and I said? We said, if we had not done this, we would be doomed. Like, I'll be all right. I would have been happy and successful and blah, blah, blah. Y'all would love me. But it would not be the April that God intended. It would just have been a version of me. It would have been a version, not a bad version. It just would have been a version. And so, as I, over the next week and several weeks, really understand what I've learned about myself and my magnificent magnificence and significance as your leader, I'm excited to see the difference. I'm excited to live. I'm excited to impart wisdom and just love and caring for my audience. I'm also excited to see people get their shit together. Um, and but what I want to make sure that the people that are following me catch is, you have to do your personal work. You can't skip the personal work. You just can't. And people keep trying to skip it. You're showing up half-mast. You got to put it all in. So if anybody's interested about Sedona Solar Ventures, just go to their website, call, tell them I sent you, ask for Rick. They can build you a plan. You can make payments if you want to go. If you do something different, they may have other, I don't know. You know, this was started by a lady named Deborah Stengel, who I met while I was there. But I do want to find a way to make sure that I incorporate personal development in my brand, because people are failing not because they can't do this shit. They're failing because they don't know who they are. They're failing because they don't even believe in themselves. They're failing because it's something that happened so long ago that people are carrying this ugly gift of inadequacy and being not enough and all these other things. It's like, no. So I really want healing and transformation for my tribe, because that's how, it's not that you can't make money without it. It's just, I don't want to be that coach. There's plenty of people that don't care about your well-being. I just don't want to be one of them. So that's where I'm at. Thank you so much for listening. I know it's so super late. And maybe early for some of y'all, but like I said, I had to get it in. I'll tag Sedona Soul Adventures. And yeah, that's all I got, but I'm excited. I am. I'm just like, we came back new people, and the purging and just it's just all has just been so well worth my time and attention. So that's where I'm at. Thank you. Have an amazing rest of your night. I'm out.